Well, I'm not sure if all of you know the inside story, but Infosys chose to move to this garden city a long time back, and there were a bunch of people who were responsible, who chose Chandigarh over many competing destinations. And we have the privilege of having one of the prime movers with us today, this afternoon. I'm very pleased to welcome Shri Mohandas Pai. I know he wore many hats when he was at Infosys, and today he continues to be a friend, philosopher, guide for lots of people. This session is going to be a fairly tight one, so I'd request you to listen carefully. There are nuggets of wisdom. Last time when he was here, we almost kick-started our Indian business because of Shri Pai. Our session is being moderated by our very own charter founder member, Shri Gurmeet Chawla, Director of Masters Trust. Master Trust operates in 18 locations across India, offering financial services, and again, a very homegrown success story based out of Ludhiana and Chandigarh. May I request Shri Chawla to do a formal introduction and start the session off?
Good afternoon, friends. Thanks for being here after lunch in large numbers. It's a huge responsibility and a privilege and pleasure to introduce a personality as big as Mr. Mohandas Pai. I'll take not much time. He said be brief, so I'll be brief. But still, I'd like to mention about what he achieved in life and what is contributed. Currently, a chairperson of Board of Manipal Global Education Services. We better know him in financial circles as one person who revolutionized how companies can be listed overseas. So he is a chartered accountant, a law graduate, and as a professional, he joined in 1994 Infosys and rose to a level of board where he relentlessly charged to get into better things in life, which is skill development, education, IT, that is core to the heart. As while he was in Infosys, he made the company the first company to get listed in NASDAQ and also do a secondary round of ADR. I think he's a policy maker in a way because he has contributed to the Indian SEBI, the accounting standards, the chartered accounting standards, and the tax reforms. He's been in various committees, Kelkar committee, other committees, e-commerce, what is happening, more of policy that is coming. He's been contributing. His country holds position in many boards and government bodies. He also has a very vibrant, growing social entrepreneurship venture where today 1.3 million children get midday meal, and the target is to take to 5 million by 2020. And this is spread across 8,500 government schools, almost all over the country. Ladies and gentlemen, I present to you Mr. Mohandas Pai for 30 minutes, sir. On the topic of the day, that Tier 2 cities, the next growth drivers. Thank you.
Thank you very much for inviting me. It's been many, many years since I came here. Before I talk about Tier 2 cities and what you ought to do, let me talk about what is reshaping the world. I think it's important for us to understand how the world is being reshaped and why it's important to do certain things the way we should do. It was 200 years ago that a great disruption took place globally, because till then, India and China were the largest economies of the world. We were 45% of world GDP. And suddenly, in 100 years, everything changed. And we became 3 to 4% of world GDP, and Europe dominated. And what was the one thing that made it happen? And that was the invention of the steam engine. 200 years ago, the steam engine was invented. And the steam engine meant a very great disruption, because till then, production was made using human muscle power and animal power, and there were no mechanical devices apart from a few pulleys and the like. And when you had a steam engine, you harnessed the power of steam to drive motive power to create giant factories, lower the cost of production, get in cheap labor, and dominate the world as a producer of goods which could be sold all over, standardized. And see what it meant. It meant that capital came in through trade with India and China, especially for England. The capital accumulated in England. You invented the steam engine, factories were set up, labor came from the fields, young children and women, they were exploited. If you read David Copperfield, you find what happens. And then they produced textiles, they produced other goods, they produced locomotives, and suddenly the railway, the textile industry, shipping, armaments became so large that they made India and China producers of raw material and supplied finished goods to them, captured value as lower cost of raw material and captured value as sellers of finished goods. And they became rich and capital accumulated and their per capita income went up and they dominated the world. One single thing, please remember, and that disrupted the world, and we're seeing it happen even today. At that point of time, the world was run by great empires. The Habsburg Empire in Austria, the Tsarist Empire in Russia, the British Empire, then you had the Ottoman Empire in the Middle East, then you had the Chinese Empire, the Japanese Empire, and India was getting dominated by England with the decline of the Mughal Empire in about 1757, 1800. So the whole world order changed by 1919 when we ended the First World War and the age of empires were over. And social structures changed because till then, wealth and value was based upon land, and people who had land were the feudal lords, and they got surpluses from cheap labor in agriculture, and thus surpluses were the source of power. Suddenly there was a trading class which came, expanded trade, got the surpluses, put into factories, and this became the capitalistic class which changed the world. After 1919, Europe was devastated, all the empires changed, there was ferment around the world, and America became very rich because America never had its economy destroyed. And then in between, you had high inflation in Germany, the rise of Hitler, the Second World War. And Second World War, the old order was destroyed and a new order had to come. But it's still based upon factories, it's still based upon motive power, and it's still based upon the creation of a global supply chain. And after the end of the Second World War, you had the rise of Japan, Germany, Southeast Asia, China. China has become the largest country in the world in terms of GDP, largest exporter, largest importer, largest foreign currency reserves, and the largest contributor to global growth. Now China is not growing fast and the world is shuddering, wondering what is going to happen. But in the last 15 years, another disruption has taken place, which in the next 15 years will change the world forever in a way that we don't understand as yet. And it's going to have great repercussions. And that is the rise of the internet. You might all laugh and said, what is this about the rise of the internet? There are 7 billion people on this planet. 3.5 billion people are connected together on the web, on the internet. Next 5 years, all the 7 billion could be connected together on the internet. And 7 billion people coming together on a platform where they can deal with each other synchronously, asynchronously, 24/7, without artificial boundaries of nationality, of countries, of governance, etc., means the world is becoming one single market. And sitting down in any part of the world, you could reach out to anybody else and transact business with them through payment gateways and through people who can transport goods and services all over. And this changed the way people consume, people leverage technology, and it's changed the way where people interact with each other. And you're seeing the rise of new companies, and you're seeing the rise of new technologies which are changing and devastating and disrupting existing business. So you have this platform. And this platform is going to be richer and richer because more and more people are putting information, entertainment, business on it, and investment. How is it impacting manufacturing? Time was when manufacturing was based upon the model of Henry Ford, which is all about having assembly lines, designing, creating suppliers or vertically integrated factories, getting the stuff together, assembling and selling it through a distribution chain. And that's getting disrupted today because of 3D printing by robotics and automation. 3D printing means you can design a car and get it printed next to your house, 50 microns by 25 microns or whatever it is, using plastic or metal powder. And they're designed aero engines in Australia, they design racing cars in America, they design a house in Dubai and in the Netherlands, they design blood vessels in China, they design chocolates and many things else. So it means that you can have bespoke manufacturing done, and the existing model of large-scale distributed manufacturing is going to change dramatically. It's already happening at the edge. Imagine you have a battle, and you have a tank battle somewhere in Pathankot or wherever it is that you fight these battles. You're at the heart of it, nearby, so you're going to have fun watching it. You can watch on the TV screens now with satellite imagery. And the tank gets damaged. You can get a 3D printing machine and design that component part and remake that particular tank again and get it working in 24 hours. You don't have to have a supply chain all over the place. And this is going to change. And this is a change in dramatic form. If you want a knee replacement, your knee is getting printed out by 3D. Your tooth sets are getting printed out by 3D. Your skull has got printed out by 3D. If you get a skull damage and a skull has to be removed, you get a 3D skull printed and put inside your head. And this is going to have dramatic repercussions. And then robotics. Robotics drones have changed. In Waziristan, people are blasting all those terrorists from Nevada. And you have these drones flying all over the place and getting your pictures. You have nano robots going into your blood vessels and cleaning up all the plaque in the blood vessels. And you have these cameras all over the place which are finding out what is happening. And you're using nanotechnology for all this purpose, right? And in Japan, which has got a population age 65 and above to the extent of 25%, robots are going to do housework, make tea for you, make your bed, and do all your housework. And they're going to be a little bit warm. So you can possibly hug them if you feel lonely. And they're not going to talk back to you. They'll talk nice things to you. They'll not talk back to you, refuse to do your work. So you'd rather have a robot than somebody else when you're that old, right? So, robots, and if you go to car manufacturing, you don't require people, you require robots. Foxconn in China, which employs 1 million people, says, we're going to replace all these girls because they cost too much and put robots. And robots don't complain. They're 24/7. They keep working. You just have to program them. And automation has destroyed 10 million jobs in America in the last 15 years. They destroyed 1 million jobs in India in the last 10 years. And the income of the middle class in America has not gone up in the last 15 years. And that's why there's discontent in America. The fat middle is getting squeezed with no increase in income, and that's getting discontent. That's why people are responding to Bernie Sanders and Donald Trump. And it's happening in India too. We're not going to have enough jobs. All this demographic dividend is going to become a demographic nightmare because we will not be able to create enough jobs. Second, the energy markets are getting disrupted. The world consumes 92 million barrels of oil a day so far. And the whole oil industry, petroleum industry, is about $6 trillion. Prices have fallen because of fracking technology in America. Prices have fallen because using technology, you can get those removed collections of oil to the surface and sell. And fracking is now viable at $45. The tar sands of Canada are viable at $50. So oil will never come up to 70, 75 again. And if oil doesn't come to 70, 75, what happens to the Middle East where budgets are balanced at $100 or $85? We're going to see a massive geopolitical disruption driven by technology. But what is more dangerous is what solar energy is going to have an impact on the automobile. An electric car has 18 moving parts. An internal combustion engine has 2,000 moving parts. Internal combustion engine has taken 100 years to perfect. And the electric motor engine has taken 10 years to perfect, led by Elon Musk. The car sells for $75,000 and is going to bring it down to $35,000 in another 2 years. And the cost of battery has come down 70-80% in the last 10 years and is going to come down 30% in the next 1 year. Last year, the world made 600,000 electric cars. The world makes about 80 million cars a year. 21 million in China, 17 million in America, 17 million in Europe, and the rest all over the place. 60 to 65% of oil is consumed by electric car. In the next 15 years, 80% of this is going to be electric cars. You're going to have panels on the roof, 18% efficiency, going up 25% efficiency, put it into storage right in your house, plug your car in, and the car can go maybe 600 miles on a single charge, and those cars become remote charging stations wherever you go, and this electric car can go anywhere, and the car has become a piece of software. It's a software, not a car. And once it becomes a piece of software available for $15,000, $20,000, very good, then you can imagine what happens to Mercedes-Benz, BMW, all these great factories, all this infrastructure. Suddenly in 10 years, boom, the whole thing changes. And this disruption is right here happening before our eyes. You see the change in the incremental pace. So the oil industry is getting disrupted, the energy markets are getting disrupted. Solar energy is selling at 4 rupee 35 paisa a unit in India in the last auctions. And if it comes to 3 rupee 50 paisa, you can kiss those thermal plants goodbye, except for base load plants which are required at night. So the energy markets are changing, and in America, the utility market is a shell. A $500 billion market is a shell today. Third, you're seeing changes in supply chain. Like I said, with the internet, the entire supply chain around the world is getting disrupted. With energy prices coming down, with automation, with robotics, supply chains are getting disrupted and getting done into very, differentiated parts all over the world. So keeping the world together is going to be very, very difficult. And in the supply chain, a lot of value is being captured. But in the producer and the consumer, they're the middlemen, the financiers, the warehouse keepers, the retailers, the bankers, the lawyers, and everybody else. They were the people who connected buyers and sellers together. And if you're a producer, to get a buyer, you need to make sure that you connect. And without them, you could not connect. Now you could connect directly B2B, B2C through the web. That's why Alibaba is the largest marketplace in the world. Flipkart has grown so well. Snapdeal is trying to grow its best. Amazon is dominating. Why? Because you can connect directly. The asymmetry of information between this is come down. And that is a competitive advantage. So costs are going to crash. The middleman is going to get squeezed. And things are going to be available almost at a much, much lower cost, expanding the market. And that's being driven by the destruction of the supply chain. Biotechnology. Stem cell research can repair damaged hearts, body parts. You can have designer parts for you. Kidney can be done, your heart can be done if you got a damaged part, because the one thing people lacked was life. We all die. Maybe 80, 90. Now they say a child born in America will live up to 100 years. And you can replace a large part of your body parts. Cancer research is funded by startups in Silicon Valley, where $200 million has gone to a startup, which is going to use research and IT to trigger good cells to fight bad cells. Cancer is caused when cells proliferate beyond a point and damage everything else. So you're going to use the DNA mechanism to trigger bad cells, good cells to fight the bad cells. A human genome costs $100 million to decode. It can be done for $100. And now with decoding, you can have bespoke medicine. We can design medicine to meet your DNA and what you need. And then robotic surgery is redefining surgery. With robotic surgery, you can pinpoint where you need to do surgery and do it in a very small, short manner. So tomorrow you could have assembly lines of people and the robot will go and come do surgery and pass them by. What happens to all those doctors? And you can do a 3D imaging of the entire body to find out what is in the body and what needs to be touched and what doesn't have to be touched, and see it happening right before your eyes. So a software engineer is going to do robotic surgery and not a doctor. You don't have to do 5 years, 5.5 years paying those absurd fees to be a doctor. And that's getting disrupted. And now knee replacement can be done, your body skeleton can be replaced, right? Now they're finding out how to get neurons from the brain, the good part, and put it into part of the brain where it's damaged. Now with brain research, they're trying to find how the neurons communicate with each other, how memory is retained, how these electronic impulses happen, how these chemical reactions happen. Because please remember, love, affection, anger are chemical reactions. They're all chemical reactions in the mind. They're trying to find how it has happened. And if you use a communication wireless device, you can put in data into the mind to find out and communicate. So tomorrow maybe they put a chip in your mind, and to the chip put all the knowledge. You don't have to go to college or university. And these things are on the verge of happening, maybe 5 years, 10 years. Because at the edge, so biotechnology is changing tremendously, because the world has more billionaires than any point of time in history. And one thing the billionaires lack is life. So they're pouring in money to get all these things up. And birth rates are falling. And the biggest thing will be a designer baby. Just imagine you make a designer baby with the kind of, size and eyes and brains that you want. So all the fun of making babies is going to disappear, because you go to sit on the computer and start designing the baby with the DNA analysis. And the baby could grow outside the womb that is does down now. It sounds very funny. But I read a report 2 days back which says by 2030, robots can do all the activities a human being can do. Robots can do all the activities a human being can do by 2030. And this is happening in biotechnology. This is happening in life sciences. And in IT, with the cloud coming down, storage is free. You can no data center. You can buy capacity the way you want. And Watson has got such huge capacities. He can do the most complex problems. What took years can be done in hours. And the network impact means that this unbelievable computing power is available cheap. And the mobile is going to be the driver. The mobile has got more capacity now than PCs did 5-7 years ago. And the mobile, you can do anything that you want. And with technology and the internet becoming so big, knowledge is available, entertainment is available, buyers, sellers can come together, and you can get rich multimedia. Anything that you want is available, and you can create your own avatar and have your own companion and create your own world. And that's why this is getting disrupted in a very, very significant way, led by technology. And then, education is getting disrupted. Because MOOCs have come, the process of learning is getting disrupted because of technology. You can have bespoke learning, and in 5 to 10 years, there'll be a university around the world, a virtual university, which is going to say, do these courses and MOOCs from all kinds of global universities, design your own degree, and we're going to give you a degree. And if the employer says, I'll take the degree and I'll give you a test and give you a job, who needs UGC, who needs AICT, who needs all these rotten people? They all should disappear. And this is on the verge of happening right now. And then all this is being led by disruptive capital. There is $10 trillion of surplus money in the world. 4 trillion in the United States because of 2008, the global financial crisis, 2 trillion in Japan, 2 trillion in the UK, 2 trillion in Europe, and China is now trying to pump prime. And this means liquidity is high. $9 trillion of government bonds are negative interest rates. In Germany and Switzerland, up to 5 years, you have to pay interest to keep the money in the bank. And in America, 30-year loans are 2.2, 2.3% and falling. In Japan, it's become negative. 10-year loans have become negative, and you can't raise interest rates. And Yellen said, after raising 25 basis points, she said, I don't know, we've got to think at negative rates in the United States. India is still a little bit hard because of other reasons. But with interest rates coming down, surplus liquidity available, money is available. And money is available, you use the money to disrupt change, lower the innovation cycle. So money is seeking great ideas and technology which can disrupt entire industries because the money is in disrupting. And huge amounts of money are available all around the world, particularly in Silicon Valley, for great ideas. Let me give you a very bad example. You take the solar industry, a company called Solar City came up 10 years ago, put panels on the roofs of all houses, take the solar power, consume it, supply to the grid in the afternoon when the power rates are high so that, you could make money. So 10,000, 100,000 panels, 1 million houses, valuation goes up, 100 million, 200 million, 5 billion, 10 billion. People come and invest, then they sell, take the money, sell short the entire utility industry. You sell short here, you buy and the value keeps going up. When you got your money, call the big pension funds and the big insurance funds, sock it to them at 4 to 6% and go. So you recycle your money. And 1 billion has become 20 billion and put in money all over the place. Frightening, isn't it? Now in all this disruption, which is going to change the world by 2030, even India is going to change, is already changing tremendously. You are in Chandigarh, a remote place in the northwest of India which nobody knows, and you're supposed to do something in a tier 2 city and only God can help you and God has given up. Anyway, I'm supposed to maybe share some ideas what you can do. Let me try. The way to grow cities now is to develop intellectual capital in those cities. So you got to first make an assessment of all the assets that you have. What are the assets you have? The assets you have are academic institutions and young minds. The assets you have are tech companies and the ecosystem. And the assets you have is policy and ability to make policy and the quality of life. So you get together a coalition of academics, of companies, and the government to come together to first make a conducive environment for you to grow the city. Then you set up 20, 30 incubators in all academic institutions, have constant business plans, give them small grants to experiment, to start companies, to try something out, create seed capital funding, so that academic institutions, the bottom, become pools of innovation which could be driven up, and invest in specialized institutions. Invest in nanotechnology, invest in deep technology, invest in biotechnology, invest in life sciences and academic institutions. So the period of 8-10 years, there's a bubbling of new technologies, or at least understanding of technology. So invest in academic institutions. Second, the industry should come together and give grants and small sums of money to people who want to start companies. It's very important that you start companies. And a lot of things are happening in India. India has 19,500 startups the last time it was counted last month. They created $75 billion of value and 350,000 people are employed. And out of this 19,500, Bangalore has got 6,500. The deep south of India. And in 10 years' time, we reckon in iSpirit that we'll have 100,000 startups, $500 billion of value will be created, 3.5 million people are going to be employed. We have an IT industry of $160 billion, 4 million people employed today. And this IT industry, this 160 is going to grow in another 4 years to 200, 225. This 4 will go to 6. So we'll have the largest pool of technical manpower, human power in India, in the world, more than the United States. Bangalore will be larger than Silicon Valley by 2020. And this is going to create an upsurge of entrepreneurship. We need capital, we need inputs. So you got to create an ecosystem where companies come up in Chandigarh. Last year, 5,000 startups got funded. 5,000 startups started, 1,000 got funded. You ask Shanti Mohan of Less Venture, she's got 10,000 startups on the portal Less Venture asking for capital. 10,000. So you can imagine the scale. Nobody understands scale in this country, even in Delhi. Much less in Chandigarh, much less in Bangalore. There are 10,000 young people who come with ideas. Maybe 80% are rubbish, gibberish. It doesn't matter, but at least come there, put their ideas there for others to come. And that's going to expand. So how do you leverage something like a Less Venture? Put all the ideas together, create a platform where people can come, give them a little bit of grants, little bit to experiment, to try, to innovate, and some of them will become very big. That's the second part. And the third part, how to create a knowledge ecosystem in Chandigarh, which is the right place, and get away from a sleepy image of all retired people trying to fight for a larger share of the cake, and young people who want to run away because they can't have beer at 8 o'clock in the night. I think now we have a few pubs, right? I mean, when I first came here, there were no pubs. So whatever it is, because bright young people will go to those ecosystems where there is a good quality of life, there's an ecosystem, and schools and all, when they get married, their wives or their husbands will have jobs. Because the biggest thing to collect people is your spouse should get a job. Or your life become miserable. Everybody is educated. They want a job. They want movement. They want to have fun. They want to go have a drink in the pub. They want to drive out on the weekend. They want to go abroad. So you need that ecosystem to be built. And for that you must create institutions. You must create centers of excellence. You must create an open culture. That's important. Why is Silicon Valley so important to the world? And why is there only one Silicon Valley? Because the best of the brightest of people all in the world come to Silicon Valley. They all come there. They're all economic refugees, but bright people. Why is Bangalore so important? Bangalore has got 13 lakh techies. 13 lakh techies, for God's sake. Enormous people. I went to West Bengal in a meeting, Invest West Bengal, told Mamta, 150,000 young Bengalis are in Bangalore and they are a gift to Bangalore from you. Thank you very much. He said, get me back, get me back, get me back. I told her, nobody wants to come back to your city. There's nothing here but old people. We get rasgullas in Bangalore too, so you don't have to go to Calcutta. But I'm making this point because Bangalore has become a refuge for all the best and the brightest of India to come. And the best and the brightest comes, the intellectual fervor, the cross connections, the network becomes very important. The ideas flow. You got Ganesh here, who's a serial entrepreneur. Every day setting up a company and raising capital. I don't know how many he set up right now. And he's brilliant. He can't work, he's saying 24 hours is not enough for me to work. He doesn't sleep now. So there are all these people, brilliant people coming. So you've got to create the ecosystem. The ecosystem is important. And this is what is required for Tier 2 cities. I don't know what is Tier 2, Tier 1. It makes no distinction. But they all have to be innovation centers. It can be done if all of you come together. And if you don't make it happen, the best and the brightest come over to Bangalore. There's room for more. Thank you very much.
We can take some questions now. Can I just start with a, because I was I think your whole presentation was very, very, one educative, one very scary. And current questions, because see, we are at a stage where just Vivek Atre said that we have advantage of the slow mover, right?
There's no slow more advantage, you're dead.
No. We believe that. We believe that, right? No, we are saying, yeah, okay. Taken. Okay. What are the vacations where we can actually go for skill
What's
development?
that?
What vacations in this whole space of disruption that you're talking about?
No, I think, look, it's got to be broad-based. We don't know what area is going to be hot, what area is there. Just leave it, create an open system.
Okay.
See, you have to invest in life sciences. You got some good institution. You got to invest in nanotechnology, in 3D printing and robotics, because these are advanced areas. And then you got to invest in IT in the sense that you got to get high-quality skills. But the most important thing is, you got to be a place for the brightest people of, say, North India to come here. People must feel the natural place for people. See, everything depends on people and the human mind and the ideas. It's no longer limited by infrastructure. Because infrastructure has become very cheap. You can stay in a remote village, get a link up, and you can do it. And in April, when Reliance Jio comes, whole thing is changed. The balance 700 million people will be on a mobile with 4G in just 2-3 years. So what they need is connection to the marketplace, and connection is electronic, right? So all these things don't matter. What matters is, what is the environment for bright people to come? Will they get funding? Will there be a collection of good people who can join together? Then they can tackle markets.
Yeah. With your permission, can we advise the local administration and the other stakeholders to have you one of the advisors to plan for us, city and tri-city?
No, look, let me tell you one thing. It's not that I or anybody else. It's just that the people of the city have to come together and force issue. We are in Bangalore working to force the government to do many things. Because we can't build roads. We can't keep the air clean. Right? We can't put power. So they're all important things. So you must come together and create a set of policies. And Chandigarh as a city-state is ideal for that. But you need good housing. Remember when it came to Infosys, we told them we want housing. Our staff didn't have housing, right? Housing rental went up because everybody is staying in 10,000 square foot plots bought 50 years ago, cheap prices, very happily with a nice garden and morning tea in the garden, but it doesn't work. So you need housing, you need public transportation, you need all the things which cities can do. People like you should do it because you carry weight.
Since I think Bangalore is more built around Infosys story, so that's why I said so. And your experience and your participation in the public policy.
No, I understand that, but we have a long tradition there of fight. You see, let me tell you one thing. Bangalore is the only place in the country where you criticize the chief minister in the morning and tell him he's not working. He'll call you for tea in the afternoon and ask you, what should I do? No, very important open culture. You try that here. You try in Chennai, Amma will. You try in West Bengal, they'll do Gero. You try in Delhi, the CBI will come. You try in Maharashtra, they'll beat you up. So you got to create a culture of openness and transparency. The culture, you can do it here. But you got to wake them up, because I think, people are in a different world. That's why I told you about the introduction of what is happening in the world. Frankly, it is scary. Because this disruption, last disruption happened over 100 years. This disruption is happening in 15, 20 years. We're already 15 years into it, and we don't know. And how it's going to reshape. You go to UP, 1 in 2 young person is unemployed. I went to Varanasi, I was so shocked. That place has no hope. You go to Bihar, there's no hope. There are 90 million people. I'm telling you, it's scary. So we have to get our act together, and that's why we need urban centers like a Chandigarh, like let's say Jaipur, and all to come up, because they should be the magnets. Delhi is a gone case with what is happening there. But Chandigarh can become. For that, the brightest mind should come. You must make them empowered. You must make them productive. Create a nice quality of life. Make them feel wanted. Because the power of the idea is going to dominate in the knowledge economy.
Thank you, sir. We have the question answer session now.
Any questions, please walk up here and state your name and question in one sentence, please.
Hi, my name is Siddharth. I'm basically an Erasmus Mundus scholar. And I just want to ask you, because you spoke about making knowledge centers. So how important do you think research would be for institutions to making these knowledge centers? And the research funding is actually is being squeezed out.
I think research is extremely important. And I think research is a long-term game. And research is concentrated in a few parts of the world. So you should try, at least localize what you got. And I think it's important. You need research funding. Funding drives research. Not the JNU research or the Jadavpur research. That is all gone.
No, I'm
They're
talking
all
about.
doomed.
I'm talking about European research.
Huh?
Because I have the right connects to get the European research over here.
Yeah, look, research is available around the world. Knowledge is there all around the world. You can try to create it, or you can
What about
tap
the
in
culture? We have to bring that culture over here.
culture
Because
of research.
Yeah.
See, you have to bring the culture of questioning authority, questioning ideas. Then automatically things will come.
Maybe we are still not on the same page. Maybe I'll have another discussion with you.
Okay, offline. Hello?
It was just a comment. You sold Bangalore very well
Sir?
in Chandigarh. You
Sir?
sold Bangalore very well in Chandigarh.
Look, I'm giving you an example because there are two centers in the world which are hotbeds of innovation now. Not Germany, not London, not Tokyo. The two centers, one of them happened to be in India, and as Indians, it's much more easy to relate. And I'm just explaining to you what happened over a period of 15, 20 years. So you have to become a refuge for the brightest minds to come. You see, after the Second World War, till the Second World War, America didn't have good institutions. All the Jews fled to America, right? Werner von Braun came with his rocket technology. Everybody went there. From UK they went, everybody went. So America became the greatest country in the world. Not Japan, not the UK, not Germany. Am I right? Why is that? Because the brightest people are required. The top 1% of population determines the future. Not the bottom 20%. Sadly, the bottom 20% are cannon fodder. It's very sad, but that's the reality of life. The top 1%, get the top 1%. And cities should be concentration of talent. So if you get the top 1%, they change. And for that, you need an open society. It is all not about, it's about infrastructure too, partially. But how good you feel, right?
One last question, please.
I would like a woman to ask, a lady to ask.
Any
Yeah, we're all male
lady
dominated.
guest to ask a question?
Shanti, you better ask if nobody asks. Come on.
So I
Yeah,
suppose
please,
that-
please, please.
Hello, there is one.
You said that in Bihar and all these other areas, there are 19 million people, millions of people unemployed. There is a parallel India, there's so many Indias in one India. So do you see hope? That's the biggest question, because Chandigarh is such a babu shehar in the first place, I'll be very honest. And a lot of us lose hope very fast. How do you keep that up? Because, seeing things happening in JNU, if you do anything, they'll come and beat you up. They'll drag you out of your homes. They'll take you at night and just lock you up somewhere. That scare, that fear psychosis overrules any kind of talent that wants to come up. So how do you remove the fear psychosis?
That's why, you see, I firmly believe that, civil society or society should get together and interact with governance to create policies and the ecosystem which allows flowering of talent to happen. We have to participate. That's the only way to make it work. Otherwise, it will not work. See, today, the brightest people can go to any part of the world. The world has become one single marketplace. Right? You can't retain people. If young people go away, what happens to the future? Look at Japan. I'll give you an example. Japan is not producing enough babies. They produced 1 million babies last year. 1.25 million Japanese died. There are 25% of people in Japan above the age of 65. It will go to 35% by 2050. The Japanese population of 127 million will decline to 97 million by 2050 and 67 million by 2100. It's gone. It will never revive. The only thing they got is $15 trillion of savings. And Modi is a very smart guy. If he takes 1 trillion and gets it here, 15-year loan at 1% interest, there won't be enough Japanese to pay back the money.
Okay. One last question.
Yeah, good
You must
afternoon.
encourage him. Arey bhaiya, jaakar aur bhi paisa lekar aao. 50-year loan. 50-year cap, none of us are going to be around. Why bother? Somebody's problem.
Yeah, good afternoon. This is for your information, sir. You were talking about the involving the institutions. I am from Punjab University. All the Tri-City institutions, including that Nanotechnology Institute, ISB, Punjab University, PGI, MER, bioprocessing unit, they made a Chandigarh region knowledge and innovation center. So all the laboratories are now collaborating and open to the industry also for experimentation as well as for incubation of the ideas. So I suppose the people, maybe young entrepreneurs or the matured entrepreneurs are not aware of these kind of facts which are happening very much in the Chandigarh only. So we involved FICCI, we involved CIA also to make them aware of. Even we ran buses by writing that CRIC is working so that the manpower can be transported among the institutions so that, and moreover the public can be made aware of that this kind of mechanism is also there in Chandigarh. So I request all of you that you should be taking advantage of these kind of initiatives also. Thank you.
I think the only comment there is that half the buildings here in the IT park are still not approved. So there is the big...
No, look. We can have 100 excuses for non-performance. There's only one excuse for performance, that you want to make it happen. Okay? Get people like, look, you got 400 people here. Get people, get more events, get people together, discuss, showcase. Now, I'll tell you an interesting thing we did, okay? Very interesting. In iSpirit is a think tank for startups like NASSCOM, all right? We wanted to change policy. So we went to UK Sinha. I was the member of the primary markets committee of SEBI and told him, come to Bangalore, startups are all going outside, we want to come. He said, okay. He came and spent 5 hours. In 4 months, he changed the policy for startups to list by creating conditions better than NASDAQ in India. Then we went to Raghuram Rajan and told him, come to Bangalore, we'll show you something. He said, why, I'll coming there 1 hour. I said, give me 4 hours. He said, no, 2 hours. He came, we showcased 10 startups, and you were so excited. He said, yes, there's a lot of things are happening. Then we got Rajiv Maharishi, Finance Secretary, to come to Bangalore. He spent 5 hours with us. Then we got another meeting with Raghuram Rajan, we got things done. We got Amitabh Kant to come down, we got things done. We got Ravi Shankar Prasad to come, we got things done. Then we sent word to the big man, and the big man heard about it. Then he said, we must have Startup India, Stand Up India. Look, it all worked. In 1 year, things have changed. We had 11 secretaries on the stage with Modi, 7 secretaries on the stage with Modi, and all young entrepreneurs, not the earlier generation. And it is a wonderful event. He said, I'm going to support you. They're actually supporting. 60% of what you want has been done. The company law is getting changed. Everything is getting changed. Taking a little bit of time, is getting changed. Hasmukh Adhia said we'll change the capital gains tax for startups and all that. A lot of things are happening. But you got to engage, you got to push, you got to expose them. They don't know what is happening. Have you heard of InMobi? InMobi is the second largest number of visitors on its portal. Is much more than Google, less than Facebook. Can you believe that from India? Yes. The largest number of web pages created 250,000 is from a company, I think in Delhi and Hyderabad. True Floats, I think. Jaswinder Singh, I think. True Floats. The guy does amazing work. By 3 SMSs, he creates a web page for you. There's a small company in the place called Kasaragod. You never heard of Kasaragod in Kerala. They can't even speak proper English. They got 45,000 schools globally on an ERP. 45,000 schools, 25,000 schools outside India. This is the kind of innovations happening. I just heard about a company in, I think Shanti told me about a company here in Chandigarh, right? Which just a WhatsApp-like thing in video.
Yeah, Bubbly.
Bubbly. Oh man, Bubbly, or what is the movie name? Bubbly and? Bunty Bubbly. You got a Bubbly. It's working. Look at that. None of you know about it, right? So these things happen. So create the conditions. I think we should go on to the panel.
Sir, more you talk about Bangalore, more we request you to maybe, on a serious note, can we have a twinning agreement between 2 cities?
Yeah. See, you should call people like iSpirit and NASSCOM and get an institutional arrangement. TiE, iSpirit, NASSCOM, have an institutional arrangement. The institutions will do everything. Big man is here from Infosys. He can work. A lot of people are there. Do that.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you very much. I'd like to present a small memento of affection to Sri Mohandas Pai. May I request Mr. Chawla to do the honors. And Anuj, where are you? Anuj Agarwal of Bunty and Bubbly fame. Thank you, sir. May I request our President Ajay to present a memento to our moderator, Sri Gurmeet Chawla. Thank you very much, sir. May I request our next panel, Lakshmi, and may I request my co-moderator, TiECON.
So I'm introducing the next session. It's called The Funder and the Funded. The moderator is Lakshmi Rebecca. There's a very popular show called The Shark Tank that's showing on TV these days. Pretty much everyone I know is glued to it, and why not? In the mood of successful startups that prevails today, where everyone with an idea is looking for an angel to bring it to fruition, it's the stuff that dreams are made of. If the people with the money buy the idea, of course. So yes, you have an idea, great idea. You even have a business plan, but you require close mentoring and inputs and strategy as well as execution. You need a consumer base, you need distribution network, you need advertising. Basically, you need money and you need mentoring. You need an angel. And guess what? The angel needs you. Your idea, your enterprise, your drive to synergistically make him or her some more money. Win-win or what? So here's introducing a session on the funder and the funded. Moderating the session is Lakshmi Rebecca of the Chai with Lakshmi fame. Lakshmi is a filmmaker, model turned anchor and entrepreneur. Lakshmi now runs a podcast series called India Startup Chat. I'm handing over the session to Lakshmi, speaking with the funder and the funded. Shall I order some chai for you, Lakshmi?
Thank you for the introduction, Radhika. And yes, I think chai would be lovely, maybe on stage with everybody. So Valentine's Day just got over. It's time to talk about going beyond dating, relationships that are very polygamous, actually. The only time you can have a relationship and actively say that is very exciting, that is very polygamous, and nobody needs to be completely committed forever for life. We're talking about funding. And today on stage, this is a very exciting panel because we have two sets of such marriages. And interestingly, what's common between both of these relationships is that they both have a passion for food. So let me begin by introducing the first the people in the first relationship. We have back on stage Mr. Mohandas Pai, Chairman of Aryan Capital Partners, a fund that invests in life sciences technology and has helped fund 10 other funds. Mr. Pai is working with, of course, with iSpirit and other stakeholders to influence policy in India so that we can have 100,000 startups, $500 billion in valuation, and over 3.5 million new employment opportunities. So please welcome back on stage, Mr. Pai. So Mr. Pai, in the first relationship, was one of the funders. Let me welcome on stage the facilitator or the matchmaker, Ms. Shanti Mohan of Let's Venture, a serial entrepreneur who is empowering entrepreneurs. She comes from the hardware industry and is an avid trekker. She has almost zero fear of failure, and Let's Venture is India's largest online marketplace that connects startups with investors. Please welcome Ms. Shanti Mohan. And now for the bride, the entrepreneur, Pushpinder Singh of Travel Khana. Travel Khana is a pioneer in delivering food on the go. Through Travel Khana, you can order food from any restaurant you like and have it delivered to your seat on a train. Travel Khana is 3 years old and has 2 rounds of funding. Pushpinder is a technologist and is a passionate dad who loves running. Please welcome Pushpinder Singh. And now for the second relationship we're going to have on stage. Let me welcome first the facilitator or the matchmaker, Ms. Padmaja Ruparel, co-founder and president, Indian Angel Network, an entrepreneur who has set up many organizations to do with entrepreneurship, including TiECON. She is a co-founder of not just the Indian Angel Network, but also the Indian Venture Capital Association. Padmaja is a pianist who loves painting and is excited each day by bigger challenges. Please welcome Padmaja Ruparel. And now for the funder in the second relationship, Mr. Sanjeev Bikhchandani, founder of InfoEdge. InfoEdge is an internet classifieds company that owns Naukri, Jeevansathi, and more. They have invested in Zomato, MyDala, and quite a few other startups. Sanjeev is also an investor in a personal capacity, and he invests primarily in non-technology startups. And Wow Momos is one of these startups. Sanjeev, of course, quit his job when he was 27 and has been an entrepreneur ever since. He's a traveler, foodie, and loves wildlife. And now for the bride in this relationship, Sagar Daryani, founder and CEO of Wow Momos. Sagar and his friend Vinod started Wow Momos when they were still in college with an initial funding of 13,000 rupees. They bootstrapped. And about a year ago, 6 years into the business, reached a turnover of 20 crores. This March, they will have 70 outlets. Sagar is a hardcore Sindhi at heart, and his favorite is the chocolate momos by Wow Momos. So, yeah, we'd like the couples to be sitting together. Thank you. All right, so before I begin with the first question to the wonderful panelists here, let me introduce the relationship a little bit more. Travelkana raised pre-Series A funding through Let's Venture. They started out by asking for 1.5 crores and ended with 9 crores in investment. Mohandas Pai was the first to respond and has invested along with a few other individuals in Travelkana. And Wow Momos, in Wow Momos Series A round, Sanjeev Bikhchandani was a lead investor, and this was facilitated through the Indian Angel Network. They raised 10 crores from a collective of about 50 investors about 6 months ago. So my first question is, let me start with the Travelkana relationship here. When you went to Let's Venture and had the first conversation about, the kind of funders you want to be dating, what did you ask for? What were you looking for? And how did the relationship get facilitated? How long did it take? The mic's there.
Yeah, so I didn't actually know what Let's Venture could really get us. I knew that it was a platform where investors and like companies looking for funding would come. I'd heard of Angel List, which I think is quite popular amongst a lot of people. And we opened the round, and then they had a setup where I had to go and speak. And in a matter of, I think, few days, we wanted like a kind of a bridge round, and we wanted to raise 1.5 crores. And when we opened the round, the funding kept coming in and kept coming in a matter of few days, like 3 to 4 days. We actually went to nearly $2 million. Before which we just said, no, I mean, if we keep it open, it'll keep on coming, and it's actually getting difficult to accommodate everyone. So we put it off the website.
Okay.
And the help that I got from Let's Venture is to getting connected to the right set of people. Very, very prominent people were there. I think Mohandas Pai was the first one of the few to send the email as soon as it came. I did not even speak with him. There are few people who actually here also whom did not I've never met them. I've only spoken with them on phone. And there was a lot of trust, and that's why things came along. Okay. So I got very happy with that.
Shanti, tell me, what is your process? Travelkana is one of the examples of a startup that raised funding through Let's Venture. So what's your process when it comes to selecting startups that Let's Venture is going to support?
So Let's Venture is an open marketplace. So where basically it's a curated, trusted marketplace where startups can come and connect to investors, right? And investors can also discover startups which match their investment theses. So we stay to that core kind of principle of being a marketplace. So we are not the curators or the gatekeepers, right? But we curate a startup enough so that they are discovered by investors whose investment thesis matches with the startups. Because today we have about 10,000 startups on the platform, out of which about 300 are actively fundraising. We have about 1,500 investors on the platform from 23 different countries. And the investors, if I start to curate, then I cannot represent each investor and his investment thesis, right? And that's the power of the social network, right? So we believe that startups which come to the platform, right, once they find the initial set of investors, that creates a social validation on the platform that they are fundable, because the initial set of investors actually ask a lot of questions before they make the commitment. And we allow the marketplace dynamics to play, because that's the only way you can build a scalable business. Right?
So you did mention curation though when it comes to startups. So what is your criteria over there?
So when we talk about curation, the couple of things, right? So it is a closed marketplace. So it is open for all startups to come and create their profile on the platform. So they can come in and create their profile. And once they think that they are ready for active fundraising, they click a button which says I'm actively fundraising. At that point of time, there's a small team in the back end, which basically, so we look at the basic business sensibility of the idea, right? So we do not approve startups who are in ideation stage trying to raise 1 million, right? So you could be a founder at an ideation stage trying to raise 1 million, but like we had the ex-CMO of Zomato trying to raise funding on Let's Venture, and he was in ideation stage, right? So there are no hard rules in what would work, what won't work, right? But there are some basic sets of rules which you can apply, right? So we actually look at traction, we look at the stage of the startup, we look at how much amount are they trying to raise. We also work with startups to help them, guide them around valuation, right? So if a startup is trying to raise 1 million, right, or a startup is trying, like I've had founders trying to raise 10 lakhs and they say we're willing to give away 20%, right? So that is not going to work, because what is not good for the founder is not good for the investor. Right? So somewhere as a marketplace, we try to bring that sanity into the funding process for the startup. That is one side of the marketplace. The other side of the marketplace is the investor side. And India does not have an accredited investor policy. So there is no way to validate if that investor is a genuine investor. And that's where a lot of effort goes into Let's Venture. So we get about 200 inbound angel requests every month. And we onboard only about 25 to 30. Because we actually have a team which calls up people, talks to them, and we understand whether they understand that angel investment is the highest risk asset management asset in the country today. It has been made much more glamorous and sexy, I think, with all the PR. People think it's the next best thing to do is to go invest in startups, right? But the reality is that it is the highest risk asset today. Right, so we kind of ensure, like I have had retired people come in and say, I want to put my pension money, and we say, no, we are not allowing that to happen on the platform, because so we can easily show numbers, but we try to curate it, because from the entrepreneur's perspective, we want to create a trusted marketplace even for the entrepreneur, right? So that when he gets discovered by an investor, his probability of getting converted by the investor is high. Sure. So that's why we that's how we curate and keep it still a little bit open for the entrepreneurs.
So Mohan, tell me, what was most exciting to you about Travelkana, investing in Travelkana?
Well, I was fascinated with the idea that you can order food while you travel and get it delivered to your place when you actually come there and it's actually worked in practice. And the fact that it was on Let's Venture. So when it came on Let's Venture, I knew that there are going to be other people investing, and they're going to be better due diligence than what I can do. So I knew that it could be something that is trusted, because Shanti will make sure and she'll complete all the documentation. So when I read it, I said, okay, let me invest. I didn't know this guy. I'd never seen him. The first time I'm seeing him. He's a very handsome young man. And I think he's doing a good job. So it is just that, look, it's an idea, the platform, The entrepreneur is tested in a sense because he has some track record, and there's somebody who does due diligence. The other people who are there, and the collective, idea of collective brains of all these people will make sure that the chances are the best it could be.
So tell me, what's exciting to you about investing through a platform like Let's Venture?
Well, a large number of deals come. It gets curated naturally by her, so you don't have to see. I get 5 requests a day to talk to people now. I'm inundated. I don't remember whom I'm talking to, what the idea is after 2 weeks, because there's so many of them. With her it comes. Then I got some friends like Sharad Sharma. If Sharad is there and he's investing, I'll blindly invest, because I know he's done the job and you trust him. So it's the network impact that makes things, and for people like us, it makes sense. Because they're all small sums of money. You're not putting large sums of money, right? Because the large sums of money are done by our other funds. So I'm putting as an angel, so it works.
Fantastic. And now for the second relationship on stage. Padmaja, I'd like to start with you as a facilitator. Tell us, how did this relationship between Wow Momos and Sanjeev come about?
So it was a very interesting, I think, traction, right, Sagar? So Sagar had approached IAN about 2-3 years ago, and we really liked Sagar even then. And then we signed up a term sheet at that time. And then one fine day, Sagar decides to say, is it okay, with all respect, that I don't take a term sheet and I don't take money from you? And the only reason was that I really want to build this company, start building this venture on my own money. And I think what he didn't realize at that time, that was his biggest collateral later when he started to raise money externally. Because I think the biggest value and the best way for any entrepreneur to build his company is on customer revenue, and start off with self-funding and build it on customer revenue. And I think Sagar almost took away 80% of the diligence right there and then when he came back to us. And he didn't come back to me, to be honest. He went to Sanjeev, and Sanjeev and Sagar were in conversation. But I think the learning here was very, very sharp, and we share this with a lot of other entrepreneurs who come to us. At a startup level, it is the entrepreneur. How it is the idea, it is the market. Is it a large opportunity? Yes, those are there. But I think a large part of the diligence, or a large part of the filtration that you do, is the entrepreneur. Is he kick-ass? Can he make it? Can he build a team? Can he lead a team? Can he take it global? Can he make it happen? And I think that was a very interesting part of Wow Momos, that they had done all that in some ways. So that is how it began. And then when Sanjeev was in Calcutta, we reconnected.
So they were already 3 years or 4 years old when you first had the conversation about the term sheet, right?
2 or 3 years old, right? Yeah, 4 years old, yeah.
4 years old. And in your case, how old was Travel Khana when you first approached Let's Venture?
It was like 2 years.
2 years old. Okay, so about a
Not 2 years ago.
2 years old. You were 2 years old.
No.
Sorry.
It's 1 year ago I approached Let's Venture, and Travel Khana was about 2 years.
2 years
that
old.
time.
Yes. Yeah. Okay. Sorry.
So I think by then he had, Wow Momos had sort of got its act together on the product, how they were going to scale up. They had figured out their marketing strategy. They were obviously revenue earning, and they were ready to go to the next level in some ways. So I think Wow Momos has really taken the word angel investing from IN to a little bit of a next level. And I think I'll leave it to Sanjeev to actually add, because this was really Sanjeev's.
Sure. My next question is to you, Sanjeev, because Padmaja just mentioned that Sagar approached you directly, but the funding then was facilitated through Indian Angel Network. So tell me, how did you get interested in this? And why was it important for you to do it in association with Indian Angel Network?
So I'm a member of IAN, they're friends. I think I could have done it with 3 people, 5 people on my own, and Sagar had approached me with that angle, okay? But I said, look, let's do it with IAN, because as Mohan said, the network really works for you. So when the call happened, the pitch call happened, there was a meeting, it was in Connaught Place, Sagar was there, there were 10, 15 angels there, they were people on the phone. Really, the quality and the diversity and nature of questions that came in 80% of the questions were on issues I had never thought of. And they were all very relevant issues. So I think when you have a number of smart people alongside you, you essentially de-risk the investment substantially, because a lot of the other guys think of stuff that you could never think of. And some of it may be 5 years later stuff, some of it may be 2 years later stuff, maybe one or two irrelevant. But by and large, I thought that I walked into that room with only 20% of the issues in my head that I walked out with. Right? And therefore, I felt that the investment is in good hands because there are so many people looking at it. Right? So while there are 2 leads or 3 leads, and all these 3 leads will interact with the company and Padmaja, and so the entrepreneur is not trained by having 3 interactions. All the issues are thought through. So that's why I felt I should do it through IIN.
Okay. Sagar, tell me, how did you go about this when you first approached IIN? What was your ask then? And how has the relationship been with the investors as well as with the network?
The first approach at IIN made me realize that, funding will be available if you're good. If you have a good product, you serve well, you're bound to get revenues. If you get revenues, you become a brand. But when that funding comes in, how are you going to utilize it? So first time we made the pitch, we realized that the money is readily available, but we felt our team is not ready to really scale up. So we felt, let's go back to the drawing boards. We already started from scratch. We said, let's do more of the groundwork. Let's build a nice kick-ass team so that when the money comes in, you can really scale up fast. And the F&B business is something which is, very service-oriented. It's a 24/7 job. A lot of supply chain, logistics, brick and mortar, retail. So expansion needs to be really fast. And when you expand, you can't compromise on your operation, on your product quality. Because people know you by your food. If your food is good, people will talk about it. And that's what will make you a brand. So we said, let's go back, let's wait, let's build a good team. We were not ready for funding, and to be very honest, at that time the term sheet with all these clauses of drag along, मेरे को लगा यार मेरा business ले लेंगे ये सब. So I did not go for it that time. I wanted to understand. I said, ignorance is bliss, fine, but it's better to be knowledgeable about it, and let's learn the whole journey. So we gave in 4 years. We were sitting in TiECON, Calcutta, I guess, and it was a similar session, a finance session. And one guy in the Q&A session asked, the moderator, that do you really need to, raise money to grow your business? So the moderator was like, no, we have a Calcutta entrepreneur here, Sagar, who's done it all by himself. So that's what I think got Sanjeev spotting into me. And then, I'm a marketing guy. So at TiECON, Calcutta, we had a Momo stall also. So I made Sanjeev have the product. Okay, and that's how I could, win over him, and I knew that, he would be interested. And then we started chatting along. I was initially looking at him more on a personal level and I got to know that, Info only does consumer internet and no more consumer. Jo bhi hua, I spoke to him, and talking to him made me realize that, this guy has, today for me sitting with him and sharing the same stage space is a big thing for me. I feel motivated. And an entrepreneur wants to feel motivated every second. So,
Absolutely.
I felt that, Sanjeev has seen failures, he's seen successes. There were 3 or 4 other ventures that he did before Naukri, which didn't click. So same thing with us, we've seen failures, we've seen successes. And I'm a true Sindhi at heart, I cannot burn money, I need to be in green. And I could figure out that Sanjeev is okay with that idea of me being in green, being profitable. And we were profitable throughout the 6 years, So, these weird valuations and burning money never made sense to me. I always believed that money needs to make money. And somehow I felt Sanjeev sir understood that. And we were talking to a couple of other VCs also. So one of the VC was like, for us, the best form of exit, Sagar, in your case is that, say, an next company comes and wants to buy you out for 1,000 crores 5 years from now. Will you be ready? I said, no, I want to go IPO. I feel I can make this company a 10,000 crore market cap company. Why will I sell for 1,000 crores? And Sanjeev actually understood that, So that made it very comfortable for me to, work with him. And we got a good valuation. We got a decent amount of valuation. And getting that right guy on board was very important.
Okay. Sanjeev would like to add something there.
Beyond IPO, the IPO discussion, really it was, I asked Sagar, what do you want to do? He says, I want momos to go out of India and become a global food, the way burgers are with McDonald's. So I don't see why we cannot have a chain globally, like McDonald's for momos, and that would be our momo. And an Indian food going global is a great idea, and I'm going to make it happen.
Fantastic. So my question to the entrepreneurs.
Rebecca,
yes.
He's got a new target now, 20,000 crores.
Whoop.
He's at 10, he's got to be 20.
So we're warring on stage. This is fantastic.
I just said that there are like more than 8 billion people in Indian trains every year.
Yes.
It's more than the world's population, so we have that.
I just want to add one thing. you know, I'm a diehard Thai fan as well, considering that we brought Thai NCR. And it is exactly in TiECON Calcutta that this conversation for Wow Momos happened. And I'm hoping that this platform today, TiECON Chandigarh, actually gets a few more conversations on between investors and entrepreneurs happen. I think Thai makes it happen, so go for it, guys.
So my question now is to the entrepreneurs, right? In both your cases, you've chosen to approach angel investors, not VCs. And in both cases, you're speaking, the facilitators are also entrepreneurs themselves. They're very, very entrepreneurial women, right? And then the investors too are very, very enterprising. They've seen what it is to build businesses, and they now become investors both institutionally and on an individual basis. Also, neither of you raised funding in the first 2 years, right? In your case, 2 years later, and in your case, 3 to 4 years later. So if there was one piece of advice you would like to give to every entrepreneur in this room on raising funding, what would it be?
You want to ask me?
Yes.
Actually, I would give an advice that does not pertain to any of this. Like just about this woman thing, I am slightly against that. Anyone comes to me for a job or anyone wants to work to me, I never see whether that person is a male or a female. I never care to bother whether it's a Hindu, Muslim or a Sikh. I just hire him. I don't even care to bother that a person is even like disabled. If that person, if I need a coder or a developer, and there's a great developer who is a minority and is disabled and a woman, I don't care.
Sure. No,
right?
the women.
So
yeah.
I want to actually say very straight that I am kind of a little against that. So it's just a matter of coincidence that Shanti was a woman.
Of course, my question wasn't to do with that. My question was you went to networks.
Yeah, so
one was a
wanted to
marketplace
know
and one was a network.
Yeah, so the one piece of thing, you solve a problem which is a real world problem that pertains to you and addresses a large market. That's one thing that I would want to say.
Okay. Sagar.
Well, I'll be an entrepreneur and take a bit of a risk in answering this question. Okay, in this auditorium, how many of you have tried Wow Momo? I've heard of Wow Momo. Can you just raise your hands, please?
Didn't he say he was a marketer?
Wow.
Look at him promoting
so I'm
Wow
not
Momos.
operational in Chandigarh, but I still see a good number of hands. So this is what you need. You require a good product and a good audience for that product. To raise funding. So once your product is there, when people know about you, investors are bound to come to you. People are bound to come and try your products. So I think it just works very naturally. You have to focus on your core areas, and even after you raise that money, you have to focus on your core areas. So I think focus on your product and your service. You're bound to get through. You have to keep things really simple and do simple things with style.
Okay, and now for the investors, Sanjeev and Mohandas, what would be your one piece of advice to both angels, because I'm sure we have angel investors in this room, and to entrepreneurs seeking their first round of angel funding? Sanjeev?
Mohan, you want to go?
Me? Well, the one piece of advice for angels is please try to understand the business. Don't invest in the business you don't understand, because you need to understand the business so you can mentally assess the risk that has to be done with the business. I think that's the most important thing. And for the entrepreneur, our advice is make sure the proof of concept is done and execute well, flawlessly, 24/7. It's all about flawless execution. It's all about perseverance. It's all about the long-term game, and value will automatically come. Don't focus on valuation, burning money through. Like he said, I worked at Infosys. Over the last many years, we created $40 billion of value. We stayed in crappy hotels. We go economy class. We try to cut costs. We can afford to spend, but we value money. And we got 35,000 crores cash in the bank. It's built up over these years. And that's why it's so good. So I would advise them, have value for money, persevere, be frugal, grow, give customer delight, and make sure that you execute flawlessly all the time and focus on the customer. If the customer who pays your money, focus on satisfying them, at the end of it, you'll always win.
Thank you. Sanjeev?
Yeah, to investors, okay, I'll tell you what I would do and what I would never do. So I would never ever invest without understanding the business, meeting the entrepreneur, getting deep into it, having line of sight. I would never invest because somebody else is investing. I do my own diligence.
Very different approaches then.
I do my own diligence. I would invest, on my personal investment, I'm not about company investment. Company investments, of course, are a much more rigorous process, and we have a team, and we only focus on consumer internet, so that's separate. On my personal sort of angel investments, I have invested behind friends, and I've always lost money. Okay. And then I have invested behind innovation. Right? I've not yet made money because I've not yet got exit.
It takes time.
It takes time. But I think those companies are going somewhere. Right? So there are 3 or 4 companies invested behind which I didn't know people earlier. And those are all stuff that somebody's innovating. So there's another investment through the Indian network, which is an automatic dosa making machine. Right? It's new, it's different, it's trying to solve a problem. He's a young entrepreneur. I met him, sincere guy. I like him. Right? And they've done something innovative, so I invested. There's another investment I have done, which is outside the IA. This is a guy who was a computer engineer, went to the US, made his money in Y2K, came back, retired, IIT Madras guy, and driving through peninsular India, he found agave cactus would grow in India, also apart from Mexico. And he innovated a way of making agave spirit, which in Mexico is called tequila. You can't call it tequila here because it's a geographical trademark. And he produced agave spirit, where out of that, which compares with a $50 tequila in the US. And he went to poor farmers, because cactus was arid land, farmers don't make much money. And he did contracts with them, they grew cactus, he's giving them a livelihood, he's making agave out of it, and he's selling it. Okay, and that's begun to do well. So I think innovation works. I invest in innovation.
Okay. And your biggest tip for entrepreneurs seeking an angel investment?
I think there's huge value in bootstrapping. Doing it with very little money. As Mohan said, being frugal. And both these companies are examples where they ran for 2 years and 4 years before they raised money. At Naukri itself, we ran for 3 years before we raised money. I think it's really important to understand the value of money, and it's really important to be sustainable financially. And you have to, if you bootstrap, you have to break even to survive, so you get to learn it, and there's a lot of learning there. So
fantastic.
I value bootstrapping a lot.
Thank you. Padmaja, Indian Angel Network is India's first and the world's largest network of angel investors. What is the biggest mistake you've seen, or the biggest challenge you've seen in connecting angels with entrepreneurs? And how do you work through that?
So I think one of the biggest challenges you have is stemming out of innovation, right? So there is innovation happening now in practically every sector that one can think of. So the biggest challenge is to actually get the right investors, or I should say the right lead investors who are domain experts, to actually look at the right company or the right innovation, because then you get the maximum value. So all our processes, and I'm sort of looking at the clock, so
Yes.
I'm being a little conscious on time.
Sure.
But I think while we have a very multi-layered shortlisting process, or I should say a filtration process, I think constantly the thinking is to say, how do we bring the right domain experts to the right companies? And our entire process, our frameworks, our entire focus is to get the right people onto the right company. This helps in 2 ways. One, of course, it helps the company and it helps the diligence, which is the one which is very important. But as you go to raise the money and you go and build a company post-investment, you have the right people actually sitting with the company on the board, on the driving the strategy, helping them connect with the right ecosystem, helping them get the right talent pool, bringing the right next round investors, thinking through all the various challenges that one has when you build a operations thing. So to my mind today, if I say, and thanks to a lot of stuff that has happened with the media and all of that, and I think Shanti sort of highlighted it, that angel investing has become a bit of a badge. But the reality is that there is money in the market, which is great. It has become an asset class. But increasingly important is the quality of money. Who are the investors in your company? What value are they bringing which is beyond the check? And I think that in an early stage, seed stage money can really make or break the company. So that is, I think, one of the biggest challenges which we are trying to also focus from a different perspective. And you know, you began this session by talking about brides and grooms, and I'm going to take that one step further. Is investing is really not only about marriage, it's about divorce and then alimony.
Absolutely, yes.
Right? So, because that's what the investors are looking for in terms of returns. That is what the promoters are looking at in terms of building you know, a larger company, getting next round investment, and perhaps looking at their own ambitions of either IPO, as Sagar was mentioning. So the whole focus for us at an angel level is to really focus on post-investment. What can we do to help the company? And that is, I think, our next focus and our next challenge, to say how do we have a scalable model of really bringing not only the network, which is huge. We are now 380, 390 investors spread, you know, almost the who's who's sitting there. But how do we leverage not only the network, but the network's network in every which way possible for the brides, you know, so that they actually grow to the next level, take it to become really, really global companies stepping out of this country. And that, with that as a vision, you sort of put all your efforts, your thinking into doing the next thing.
Okay. Of all the associations or relationships you facilitated at the Angel Network, which would be the most exciting one till date? The investor-investee.
You know, honestly...
Or tell us about one that was most challenging.
You know, Lakshmi, actually that's a question which I live every day. I mean, at IN we are now raising money for companies on a week, not on a weekly basis, 2 in a week, right? We raise about 3 crores in 5-10 minutes, literally. You know, I have examples where a subscription call goes out, and by the time the entrepreneur leaves my office, which is on the 3rd floor, and gets into his car and starts the car, and he said, congratulations, go have a drink, you're done, you know. So I think we are on a high in that sense. I think the next level of high is to see the exits happen, which we are starting to see. You had one of our earlier sessions, you had Sachin from Stazilla. I think a rocking company. It's given us not only returns, it's gone into Series B, and it's doing even better. So I think for us, it's exciting time the day you get up and the time you sleep. And if it wasn't, I'd probably step out of IN because I'd get bored to death. But honestly, it's a high. It's a real high to see every single day new entrepreneurs come, get invested, investors coming in, and taking the company to the next level. What better high can one get?
Thank you. Sanjeev, you wanted to add something?
Yeah, she's not going to answer your question. This company is the best, this company is the worst. She's never going to say it. They're all good, they're all great, and that's it.
Cool. Thank you. Thank you. Shanti, I have a question for you. What is the one thing that entrepreneurs should not do when they approach a marketplace or a network or even an angel investor directly for funding?
So don't make funding the basis of why you're building the company. I think it's very important. I think it's very important to understand that funding is one of your milestones which will help you build your business. It's not the reason why you're starting a venture. And I see that a lot with entrepreneurs. I see that a lot of them who actually come up and say, I'm working on this idea, and do you think I can raise funding? And we are like, you know, there are a lot of people already in the market who've done this, and unit economics are not working there. So he says, okay, maybe I'll then work on another idea. So that is completely basically flawed in how you're thinking about why you want to be an entrepreneur. Right?
Absolutely.
So I think you have to ask yourself the question, why do you want to be an entrepreneur? Because I think we only see the success stories, right? We only see success milestones when the entrepreneur has raised funding. It's like I kind of wrote once about, you know, it's like climbing, it's like actually being on a trek when you only see the person at the peak of the mountain holding the flag. You
Only then do you
don't see
notice
the
that.
effort which has gone in every day to actually make that happen, right? All the training and all the work which has gone to help you climb the peak. And I think that is very, very fundamental to how you want to think about entrepreneurship.
Sure.
I just want to add a question. You know, while I won't give names to Sanjeev's point, But I think when I look at about 100 companies that we've invested in, honestly, the one thing that strikes where failure has hit us is really execution, lack of execution and focus from the promoter team. Single thing that I would say is common to practically all the companies which have not done well is lack of execution. Single reason where companies have done well is execution. So to borrow from Vidya Balan, I would just say execution, execution, execution. That's all I would say.
Okay.
You're from the film industry, right? I had to bring that.
Thank you, yes. How should an entrepreneur decide how much to ask for? And this question is for all of you to answer. How do you decide how much to ask for, how much equity to give away in return for what you're asking for? And also, what should you expect from an angel investor beyond the money?
Actually, you need to have a business plan to ask for that, okay? So that's the basis. There is no other basis.
Sure.
And that would really tell you, and that business plan obviously needs to have reality built into it and all of that. Frankly, with regards to dilution, like unless it's like way beyond, like someone asking 20 lakhs, मैं 20% देने को तैयार हूँ. Unless it's like that weird, it doesn't really matter, because all that you are up to is making a huge, large company which addresses a very large market. And when that happens, the real valuation which is basically done when you do an IPO or you get a strategic takeover or something like that happens, and the investors get an exit. That's what you should really look for.
Okay, and would you like to add to that, Sagar? What's been your experience on that?
Well, I guess you exactly need to have a very clear-cut vision where you want to reach in X number of years and how much you need to reach there, because you need to set small milestones for yourself, because once you achieve every small milestone, you get that kick, you get that encouragement कि मैंने ये कर दिया, wow, very good, and you get your other investors also happy. You try and create an environment where you get all your stakeholders happy, and then happiness breeds positivity. So I think you need to have small milestones, raise as much as required. If you have confidence in your venture, you're cash flow positive, you have a backing. So raise as much as required, dilute, rest, value your equity. I am someone who really values my equity, and trust me, I have had funds who say that they don't like talking about valuations, etc. But I believe any fund or any investor would always like the entrepreneur valuing his own equity, because जब तक आप खुद को प्यार नहीं करोगे, आप दूसरों को क्या प्यार करोगे? So you have to value your equity, because once you're valuing your own equity, you're also valuing your other investors' equity. So I think we were very particular about our equity. I mean, I remember having my first chat with Sanjeev, and he realized that, I really value my equity. So, it somehow makes the entrepreneur feel that this guy is serious. He knows what he's doing. And if I am putting my money, I'm putting it on safe hands. So I think you really need to raise as much as required and go for small milestones. If you're doing well, money is always there to come in. Doors are always open. Don't be in a rush. You can't go from class 1 to class 12 in one shot. You have to go through class 2, class 3, class 4. Take your time. I wouldn't say go slow and steady, but go steady.
Fantastic. And of course, you can start with as little as
Can I make a point?
rupees. Sure.
I think investors must never make the mistake of giving too much of money, because then the tendency is to blow up and you're not going to get value. So never get too much of money. Never dilute so much that the entrepreneur becomes an employee. Housing.com is a classic example. Too much of money, too soon, blew up, and you became an employee, so you walk out. When you walk out, the idea walks out. What are you investing in? You're investing in an entrepreneurial team. You're investing in an idea. You're investing in people who can execute the idea very well. And they must have a large enough stake to feel that they are in it for the long term, they are in it for the big game, and they are in it for the value they're going to create, and you are their partner. And if investors start driving that company because they believe they have the strategy, they're the brilliant people, it's not going to work. Because then they should run the company themselves. I think it's a very important distinction. Never dilute too much. Make sure that you respect them, give them all your views, talk to them, but they have to take the decision. Because tomorrow they have to be judged for performance, and you should not drive the strategy or drive everything else, and that'll be totally wrong.
Sure, I think if there's one thing I'm taking away from this conversation so far is that it's a game of equals. No one's higher or lower, and the most important thing is the business itself and how big it can become. I think I've got a couple of minutes to throw open the conversation to the floor. The first hand goes up there. Can we have a mic in that end of the room, please?
Can you walk up here?
Good afternoon, gentlemen. I am Ritesh Saxena, representing Bikecamp Adventures. We own and operate a campsite in Leh Ladakh for bikers and adventure lovers. And my question is for incubators actually. So it is not regarding the funding stuff, but it's really because I'm a first generation entrepreneur. Nobody has been working, entrepreneur in my family. So the lack of knowledge is something which I feel is important for us to start initially. And nowadays we are seeing incubation centers are also choosing the startups. They also have their own criteria and they choose it. So doesn't that become a hurdle for people like us?
Okay, so we're not really here talking about incubation centers, but would anyone like to answer? I think
So I've not completely understood your question, but let me give a broader response, if I may. Look, incubators do add value, right? Just as a TiE platform brings people together, and we've seen stories here, I think incubators do add value. First of all, I think it gives a person a taste of what entrepreneurship is. Is this something you really want to do before you sort of raise money, before you put in a lot of your own money? That's, I think, the first thing they do. The second, they try to sharpen your idea and your business plan, right? Almost getting you ready for, let's say, angel investment or seed investment. And the third is really, if it's a accelerator or an incubator which is getting you to touch some clients or potential customers, I think that's the best endorsement that you can get for your idea. That does this work? Is somebody really going to pay for this? Is it hitting a pain point for somebody in the ecosystem that you are targeting? So I think incubators is a good idea. It allows you to experiment, think through is this what you really want to do? You may still want to be an entrepreneur and you may not like the idea, or you may like the idea and you want to be an entrepreneur but you may not have customers. So I think this is a good place to sort of figure out what you want to do. That's how
Sagar, did you want to? Shanti, yes.
So I think you wanted to know what are the other options if you cannot get into incubators, accelerators, right?
Yes.
I think there is a lot of TiE, like TiE is there, right? There is Startup Saturday, right? So I think as an entrepreneur, one of the other aspects is also about how persistent are you in able to find help when you need help. Because I think saying that because I'm staying in a city like Chandigarh, I'm not able to find mentors, I think it's an excuse just for yourself, sometimes, right? So I think you should be able to actually get into your school network, your professional network, you should be able to get into online networks and seek some of the people who are willing to come online and help entrepreneurs. I don't know if that answers.
All this incubator, accelerator, angel investment, venture investment is not a very recent thing in India. There were companies being built before any of this. There are companies still being built without venture investment. I became an entrepreneur in 1990. We ran for 10 years without external investment. Infosys was built without any venture funding. It's okay. You'll be fine.
Our last question. So you raised your hand first. Sorry, one last question. He was the first one to raise.
Yeah, I'm Tarun, founder of Vinaya.com. We are an online parenting and education startup operating out of Mohali for last 4 years. So this question for Shanti. So we are on Let's Venture. We are not actively seeking funding. Reason being, we believe that there are a few things which we need to fine tune. So is there a provision where Let's Venture can appoint a mentor or somebody who can help us fine tune before we even initiate the process of raising funds on a social platform where hardly people even meet each other like you guys shared?
Hello. Yeah. So actually, the core focus of Let's Venture is to help you raise funding. But if you can drop me an email, I can make some informal introductions to people who could actually help you with this.
Thank you so much. I think that's all we have time for. Thank you.
We are completely out of time. Thank you very much. May I request the ushers?
Okay, I'm sorry. Ms. Pai would like to insist that we have one lady from the audience ask a question.
Okay.
Would any of the women in the audience like to ask a question? Final question for the session. Come on, women. One question. Anybody in the front here? On angel investment, about seeking the first round of funding, bootstrapping. This one's for women only. Anybody over there? Yes, we have a lady in the back. And please introduce yourselves.
Hi, this is Isha. I'm from Gravity Interactive. I wanted to ask, like Sir said, that 10,000 people come with ideas and maybe 80% of the ideas are rubbish. So what is the right channel, if you have some idea, what is the right channel to approach the investors?
Look, pardon me for the statement, okay? It's just that I'm very direct. Look, you have an idea, you must sell it to somebody. No idea is rubbish. Depends on how you sell. You must have passion, energy, the ability to convince. You can sell any idea, okay? So no idea is bad. I only made a statement from my point of view, that's all. But you must sell the idea. Life is a marketplace of ideas. So you must have the passion to sell the idea. If you sell and make it work, it works.
Yeah, I'll just say one more thing, not directly answering that question, but related to it. It's a good idea to raise money when investors come to you, as opposed to you going to investors. You get your terms of trade, you get your valuation, you get the speed at which you want to raise it. What you're figuring out, how do I get my company into a position where investors will approach me? So if I'm looking for money, which means that, do I have a product? Is it launched? Are there customers? Is there repeat revenue? Do I have proof of concept? And so on and so forth. That's what happened to Naukri. That's what happened to Sagar. That's what happened to Zomato. So try and get your company into a position where investors approach you as opposed to you approach investors. And when investors approach you, you can have a reasonable discussion.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much for a very, very insightful conversation.
Thank you very much.
And thank you for being such a lovely audience.
Yeah, may I request Lakshmi to please present some mementos of appreciation to our guests. Shanti Mohan, Let's Venture. Thank you very much. Both. There are two gifts, Lakshmi. We've been very grateful to Niche Perfumes and to Ethos Watches. Padmaja, thank you very much. Pushpinder. Pushpinder, thank you very much. And Sagar, thank you very much for being here. These other guys are the givers, so we don't give them.
I have one question. How many of you want a wow moment Chandigarh? How many for wow moment Chandigarh?
You can ask the question.
Chalo, we'll be there
And
years time from now. Thank you.
May I request also Atma Ram Singh from Drish to come up and thank our moderator, Lakshmi Rebecca, for doing a great job. Drish is also a sponsor. They make lovely shoes for men, women, and children. You should check them out outside. My office, luckily, is right next to their outlet, so half the time my office is in their showroom. Atmaram Singh, thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Rebecca, for this lovely conduct that you did the entire session. We all enjoyed it very much. Thank you so much.
And thank you. Atma, thank you, Lakshmi, very much. As we move on to the next session, it's time to split up again. We now have 3 parallel sessions going on right in the next hour. This room, we will have the session on championing challenges. In the first floor, we have more success stories about how a bunch of entrepreneurs have beaten the odds and become successful. And for those of you who are looking to grow in Europe, we have a great session from the Trade High Commissioner of the United Kingdom on the second floor in Quorum. So I would urge, while we get set up here, to figure out which of these sessions you would like to attend. Championing challenges here in the main hall, beating the odds on the first floor, where we have a very interesting bunch of startups talking about how they overcame their challenges and learning or meeting the trade delegation from